tell us concerning, because that's the first initial thing that we have to go to. For those who deal with the Shulchan Aruch and all those different outside books, before you deal with that and you say that's what this says, this is halakhic law, you have to go to the source first. And the source first is the Tanakh. The Torah is first. That's our first source of information. So, the first thing that it says in the book of Exodus in the 12th chapter is where you find your beginnings. It talks to you about preparing a lamb for the Pesach, the Paschal lamb as it's called, that was offered up, and the blood of it was put on the doorposts and the lintels of the house so that the angel of death would pass over and the plague of destruction would not fall upon you. Right? But in the 12th chapter, in the 14th verse, it says, of the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus, it says, this day shall become a remembrance, Zakur, remember. It's a memorial for you, and you shall celebrate it as a festival for Hashem for your generations, as an eternal decree shall you celebrate. Right? Verse 15 says, for a 7-day period, you shall eat matzah. And that's one of the first things I want to talk about, because it's the first thing that it says here. Right? It says Shabbat Yamim, 7 days. Matzah tokelu. Matzah. Tokel, to eat. Right? It says you shall eat it. So, and I'm only, because I read somewhere that somebody said, you don't have to eat matzah for 7 days. That's some people's belief. However they interpret. But here it says you have to eat it for 7 days, right? But it says on the previous days, you shall nullify leaven from your home, right? So we know that the Torah says you have to eat the matzah, right, during this memorial period. But on the previous day, before that, you have to go in and remove everything that is leaven from your home, right? And the first word it uses is Tishbeku Seor. The word Seor. You shall nullify leaven. Now, according to this, it's using it as leaven, right? Now, just listen. And it says, from your homes, for anyone who eats leavened food, he called Ochel Chametz, leavened food. Now it uses another word, Chametz, which we're used to, Chametz, right? That soul shall be cut off from Israel from the first day to the 7th day, right? Says in verse 16, on the first day shall be a holy convocation, on the 7th day shall be a holy convocation. No work may be done in them except for what must be eaten for any person, only that may be done for you. So you cease from your working and everything, but that which you have to prepare for eating, such as your feast can be done, is acceptable. Now, verse 17, because we just learned 2 words, Seor, Chametz. Verse 17 says, you shall safeguard the matzah, for on this very day I will have taken your legions out of the land of Egypt. Ushmaratem shamar to God. Et hamatzot. Same word, matzah. Right? Here's the matzah. Because he took the legions out of Egypt. It says, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month of the even, you shall eat matzah until the 21st day of the month in the even. Verse 19. For 7 days, Shabbat Yamim, Seor, leaven, may not be found in your houses. For anyone who eats Lo yimatse, that same word for matzah, right? Leaven may not be found in your houses for anyone who eats leaven, that soul shall be cut off from the assembly of Israel. He called okel mak meset. Here's the third word. What three words have we discovered? What's the first word we saw?
Seor.
Seor. What's the second word we discovered?
Chametz.
What's the third word we discovered? Mak. Meset. Three words that the Torah gives you. And that last one, it says, Mak meset, ko okel, o eat, right? Leavening, mak meset, wenikrata hanefesh hahil, me'adat Yisrael. Right? So everyone who eats kol mak meset, lo tekolu, you shall not eat anything leavened. They call in all your dwellings, you shall eat matzah. So we have three terms that we have to deal with today. Three words. Seor, chametz, and makmeset. Chametz is the one that mostly everybody is familiar with. Because when it says chametz, chametz is a broad term, right? It broadens the term and it says everything is considered chametz, right? But why do you think that they use the term seor and makmeset? Nothing is done haphazardly. That's my feeling. And yes, there are different words in the Torah for different things, and there's certain words, but why just make it simple for everybody and say, no leaven. Leaven is chametz, chametz is chametz, chametz is leaven is chametz, and be done. But when you use three different words, now it tells us in our mind that there has to be three different things. Right? Now look at this word. Chametz. What do you see here?
Chametz.
What do you see here? In makmeset, you see the word chametz. Right? These two words have the same root. Right? Say orders is totally in a class by itself, so it seems. But makmeset and chametz seem to be related to each other. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the difference between them and how are they defined? Well, again, every time you look in the Strong's Concordance or a different thing and you find, what are you going to find when you look up this word? That's what you're going to find. You're going to find that. You look in Strong's Concordance, pull it up on your phone, your laptop, whatever you got, look up Strong's Concordance and look up the word chametz. You're going to find leaven. What are you going to find when you look up these words? This one is a pop. This one is in there. Guess what it says? Right? That's what it says about this. Three words that mean leaven. Is that possible? Sure. Sure it's possible. But now, let's look. Somebody told me that this word here also means sour. They said the word she'or is anything that sours, right? Not the first time I've heard it. But if you go to concordance and you look up the Hebrew word sour, like a sour taste in your mouth or a sour pickle, you know what the word is? For sour? The actual Hebrew word for sour? Kamutz. What does that sound like? It sounds, the word is kamutz. That means sour. So then I thought, when you think about it, you say, well, wait a minute. The word she'or is still defined as leaven. But we call it, say, anything that has soured. But then the word for sour is actually kamutz. Sounds like chametz. Right? So we know that they're all in the same kind of bag together. Right? Now, anybody ever heard of the term sourdough? You ever heard of that? Sourdough. Right? What is sourdough? It's leaven. It's a form of bread. It's a type of bread that people eat, right? But the Torah teaches us when it talks about, it says that the reason that we have to eat matzah is because we left Israel in what? Haste. That means swiftly. And we had no time to let the bread. And how do we make our bread rise? Today we put all the ingredients and we let's it. How do we do it then? But you had to add something to it. Just like today. You can't just take flour and water and make bread. It's not going to happen. You can let it sit there and over time you'll see it that puffing, but it's not enough to get you to a loaf of bread. It'll be a hard loaf. How did they get their bread? Well, this is what they call nowadays sourdough. They took that piece of bread that they stashed away and let it ferment over time and over time and over time, and it takes away, that chemical process starts to begin what we call fermentation, right? And on that process of that little piece of bread, they would boil it up and keep it, right? And when it was time to make bread now, they would take that bread and water and add that. That became their yeast, what we know as yeast today. That's the activator. This is the activator, right? Which a lot of people call it sourdough, because that's what sourdough is used for. It's to activate in a lot of things. The actual word for that is what? You know what they call this in Hebrew? Makmeset se'or. The word sourdough is called makmeset se'or. Right? So you know that this is still all in the same line, right? So now that we realize that all of these things are here, now we got to deal with the fact that we know bread. Bread is bread. It rises. We can know what that is. Now we have to deal with some other issues. When you're cleaning your house and you're getting rid of stuff and you're trying to figure out what you can and cannot eat, you know you can't eat bread, cookies, pastas, and you'll go to the store. Nowadays, didn't happen many years ago. You go to the store now, they have cake mix. Kosher for Passover cake mix. That they use matzah flour made out of matzah, and they use eggs. There's no yeast. There's none, because there's different ways to make bread rise, right? But I'm going to tell you that as long as you don't use, and it's just strange how so many things have been added and done, as long as you don't use 5 grains, they just, as long as those things don't happen, just about everything is good in a lot of teachings. So you're cleaning out your house, you're cleaning out your refrigerator, your cabinets. What do you throw away? What do you throw away? You throw away loaves of bread, bagels, anything that's there. So let's cut past that. Let's get to the little more trickier stuff.
Salad.
Bread is it? Huh?
Salad.
Let's go in our refrigerator. Salad dressing, mayonnaise, ketchup. What do we do with that stuff? Do we keep it or do we chuck it? Chuck it. Now we say chuck it. That's what we say. Chuck it. Chuck this. Chuck the mayonnaise. Chuck the, all that gotta go. Right? Because we clean now our refrigerator. So we pick up the salad dressing, the mustards. What's in it?
Vinegar.
Vinegar. Well, somebody told me that vinegar falls under this. Something that has soured. Right? But do you know that the word she'or actually means leaven, but it's yeast or products that act as yeast. She'or is actually, because why? This is what they call the sourdough. The sourdough was that bowl that sat for months and months, and when you went to make bread, you used it. So it did what? It acted as yeast or a yeast product. Right? So she'or is a leaven, but it's the yeast or products that act as or work like yeast. It's not just things that sour. Chametz is what? Leavened bread. That's what the true technical term of chametz is. The final product is leavened bread. Machmeset is anything that has been leavened. A donut. Whatever it is that has been leavened in the process taking place, that's what machmeset is. Anything that has been leavened in any shape, form, or fashion. So now we're going to this term, these things in our thing. Why don't we have vinegar? We said that vinegar is one of the things we throw out, isn't it? Why do we throw out vinegar? You just look it up. Okay? How many types of vinegar are there?
Ooh.
And I'm not telling you the main, I'm just telling you the main one.
Distill, which is from grain.
Grain.
Cider.
And fruits. Or fruits. You got fruit.
And rice.
And rice.
And rice.
Vinegar. Is anything wrong with rice?
No.
Let's look. We have rice vinegar. Let's see. What kind of vinegar? We got rice.
Apple cider.
Fruit vinegar.
Fruit.
We'll say fruit.
And then distilled grain vinegar.
And then grain vinegar. Now, which ones are we throwing out?
Grain.
Grain one for sure?
Yes.
All right, we got the fruit vinegar. So it's like apple cider vinegar, right?
Okay.
We got the rice vinegar, but we want to throw out the grain vinegar. And we're throwing out the grain vinegar, why?
Because it's made from grains.
It's made from grains. Okay, let's look at that. And again, this is not to expel, but let's look at the definition of this word. We know it's all considered an 11 family, right? But chametz is, when you go on Google or anything like that, this is the definition you're going to see. Anything. Anything that is derived from the 5 grains. Sister Kaya, what's the 5 grains?
Wheat,
Hold on, we're going right here. Wheat,
oats,
oats,
barley, rye, and spelt.
spelt. Anybody concur? Everybody find something different? Anybody have a different view? You go with that? Everybody's good with that? Everybody on our YouTube channel that's watching, we thank you for being here. Comments. If you look at anything, go at anything that has any kind of information that says, what is comments? It says anything that is derived from the 5 grains, right? Wheat, oats, barley, rye, spelt. Now, this is my question. Because now you have to remember where you were and when it was written. What did we grow? Wheat, oats, barley, rye. The scriptures tells about it. The month of Abib is when we're watching the barley, right? So, but what makes this wheat, oats, barley, rye? What makes it comments? If I just take wheat, right? I grow wheat, got wheat shafts. Is that wheat stalk a comments? What makes it comments?
The process.
The process. Not when you harvest it, but you got to add something to it. What do you add? All of these right here, you have to add something to it.
Water,
The table.
Water.
What you call that? Triple.
Okay. Water. You got to add water to it. You just leave it dry, nothing's gonna happen. We have to add water. Is the other, we'll say, the chemical that's used, or the product that's used to enhance the chemical process. Water. So if you add water to any of these, a chemical process is going to start to take place. Right? So that's why it says that now you're not going to go in the Torah, and the Torah does not say thou shalt not during this season eat wheat, oats, barley, rye, spelt. It's not going to say that. But it says take the leaven out your house. Anything that is going to promote when added with water. So let's say this. Say I got some natural, organic, freshly gathered oats in a container. Do I have to get rid of it?
yes.
I take it out of my house. Now, why? I haven't put water on it. It's just sitting in a container.
Whole process.
Here's oats. Just a natural thing. It comes out the ground. Why do I have to get rid of it?
Because the Torah said we got to remove them from our house.
Remove what?
The grains.
It says what? Comments. Say or. Right? Comments is defined. When you look up comments and anything, it says these 5 grains. Is it comments without you touching it with water? I'm asking. If you don't touch it with water, is it comments?
I don't think so.
Because it says comments is these 5. But now let's stop. I don't want you to get started. I don't want to get nobody choked up. Let's stop. Go here. Why am I circling wheat as a comment? What do you make matzahs out of?
Wheat.
Wheat? So I can keep wheat? I can't keep wheat? How do I make my matzahs?
Right.
How do I make matzahs during the week if I don't have the flour in my home?
You gotta make it before the.
I'm gonna make enough matzahs before the first day of the feast of before Pesach to last the whole week. So why can I keep wheat?
Keep all of them.
Huh? Why can I keep wheat to make my matzah, but I can't have these? All right, let me take you to a level of understanding, right? These things without contamination are fine. You understand? Nothing's happening. The problem is we get rid of them because anything that touches these things will contaminate your home, right? So any water process that goes in, or anything that has it in it, anything that you buy from the store that says it contains these things, a process is taking place. Especially when you buy store-made, factory-made things of that nature. Because if I can have wheat to make my matzah, right, then why can't I have these? I make my matzah out of wheat. It's a grain. What the Torah is saying is, it's not Torah. It's Torah. We got to remember now. We didn't keep a house like they kept it in ancient days, right? You gathered up your stuff and you had storage for your grains. You kept your grains in storage, right? But we live in modern times now. So most of us buy processed food. If anything that you buy has this in it, some liquid has contaminated, makes it hummus. But we make matzahs out of wheat. They make boxes of them, they sell them in the store out of wheat flour. Why is it that everybody gets to use wheat, but not anything else? What's the difference in the flour that you use for matzah than the flour that you're going to use to make bread? None. Right? People have asked this question for centuries. They said because the process is now, the wheat that we have has been watched, call it shemor flour. It's watched flour. And from the time it's harvested till the time it's used to make matzah, it's watched and nothing contaminates it. It's like guarded, safeguarded. So it's not the actual grain, because how many people keep raw rye grain in their home? Not many people. How many people keep wheat stalks in their house? Everything that you buy is in the bag. Right? Everything you buy has been through some type of process. The reason it's not allowed is because that process could have contaminated it. And that contamination that could have went through in processing you buying that bag or whatever, there's no guarantee that it hasn't been contaminated. Now, if you go to a farm, you say, hey, this is wheat that just came out the ground. God is not telling you can't have that. The whole purpose of this, family, is that the Eternal said this shall be a memorial to you. What is a memorial? Something that we remember. What do we remember? We're remembering the Exodus. Right? So we're remembering the Exodus. We had to leave in haste. No time to allow bread to rise. Thus being now, that's why we can't have any breadcrumbs. Because it reminds us, not eating it for a week, this is what we had to go through. It's all about being a reminder. We have to come back to essence. We know there's a lot of new stuff that's going around. But the whole essence was, we didn't have time to let this rise, so now we have to eat unleavened bread. All right, we're back to the house, we're cleaning, we're throwing out the vinegars and stuff like that. And we're throwing out the vinegar because we know that the 99% of things that are used with vinegar are made with grain, and they've been processed, so it's already contaminated. It's comets now. So we can't have it. So we have to throw away all those things that use vinegar. Now, what vinegar can you use?
Fruit vinegar.
Like apple vinegar, fruit vinegars,
Balsamic vinegar.
balsamic. Can you use rice vinegar?
Rice vinegar.
Huh? Now, some people don't use rice vinegar. And why can't you use rice vinegar? Why don't people use rice vinegar?
They were scared of the rising of the rice.
The rise of the rice. You ever watch Rice Rise? Yeah. I have.
Yes.
Right? But
There's no activation to it. Right?
there's no activation to it. But why does rice rise when you put it in the pot? And it doesn't rise, family. It doesn't rise. It swells.
Swell.
Why does rice swell?
Water got inside of it.
It was dehydrated. Now it's being rehydrated.
With the water.
Beans are dehydrated for preservation.
Yeah.
And when you put them back, what do? They tell you soak your beans first.
Right.
So when you come back in the next morning, you're like, oh, they swelled up. Is that contamination? Is that against the Torah?
No.
All right. Do you know that there are people that do not eat beans and rice? For that very reason. Right? Now, again, this is not to condemn. It's just to share information. Let me share something. Let's see. On the first page. I want to show you. Okay. The custom banning rice and beans, as well as foods such as lentils, edamame, popcorn, date back to the 13th century. Why popcorn? Because corn is considered what all of these things, rice, beans, corn, are considered what they call kit meal. Kit meal. That's rice, beans, corn. Some include string beans in it. Even though it's a vegetable, but the bean inside. Right? So again, dates back to the 13th century. Right? That it was understood, and they made it a halakhic rule that under halakhic law, kidney yolk cannot be eaten during Passover. K-I-T-N-I-Y-O-T. Kidney yolk. Kidney yolk was considered beans, rice, corn. Another word for beans is legumes. L-U-G-U-M-E-S. Right? All this stuff was considered back in the 13th century. 2016. That's 10 years ago. Right? The Rabbinical Assembly, an international group of rabbis within the conservative denomination of Judaism, ruled that it is in fact okay to have rice, beans, and corn and other so-called kitniot during Passover. For Ashkenazi Jews, it's the first time in 8 centuries that these foods have been welcomed during this season.
Who's that from? The Rabbinic?
The Rabbinic Assembly of Conservative Judaism. Now, there are still a lot of Hasidic and Orthodox Jews that still do not allow what they call kitniot during this season. Right? Sephardic Jews, which are Jews from Spain and places in Africa, they've always allowed this. But they said this didn't match what the Torah said. Right? So, when you see there are a lot of us who grew up and a lot of people who never partook of beans, rice, corn, because they was raised up or taught that this was not to be so. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's just the way you were taught. Wherever place you came from, that's what they taught you. And so they taught you. So I just wanted to point that out to you so that if you ever did and you say, well, I heard people, you'll know where it came from. When it changed. When did the rule change? Right? So you get some people who their whole life have never eaten beans and rice. Never. During this season. Never. Israelites. Never. Because that's the way they was raised. And they still won't. And that's fine. Because guess what? See, family, not eating something is not going against the word of God. As long as you eat unleavened bread, as long as you eat matzah for 7 days, that's what God commands you. And as long as you don't partake of leavened bread, you're fine. Right? So the other things that have come and have been controversial throughout the years, if you don't eat beans and rice, God is not mad at you. There's a whole lot of things that people don't eat during this season. So we got the 5 grains that we listed to you, that if they become contaminated, they are listed as chametz. So being that they're listed as chametz, anything derived from them, we don't partake of. So when you throw out your stuff, we said that bread, all that stuff, you kind of know it's a no-brainer. Ketchup, mustard, that's why our sister Yerusha, who unfortunately couldn't be here, does a tutorial to show you how to make these things without using those products that they use, right? There are some people who say, you know what, I don't even deal with nothing with vinegar, period. Now, when you go to the store, what you'll find is kosher for Passover. I'm just going to put KP. Kosher for Passover. Ketchup. Mayonnaise. Or everything you can think of. Salad dressings, everything. Yeah. What's the difference? What's the difference between kosher for Passover? Let's use one. Let's just pick one. Ketchup. What's the difference between kosher for Passover ketchup and the regular Heinz ketchup you use all year round?
The main ingredient that makes the...
What's the difference? What makes it not kosher for Passover?
The vinegar was watched over, or
the vinegar, period.
So it's not
the vinegar, period. Why? Because it's made vinegar. What kind of vinegar? Most likely it's grain vinegar. 9 times out of 10 is grain vinegar that they use to make these products. Now, what makes it kosher for Passover is they process it with an alcohol or vinegar that's not made from grain. Right. So that's how, like Yerusha, you can make your own stuff, just not with grain vinegar. You use emulsifiers. There's emulsifiers. There's a whole lot of things that you use. You go to the store and you pick up some cereal for your grandchild. He loves his cereal. He loves his Frosted Flakes. He loves this. And you're reading the ingredients. What are you looking for? What are you looking for?
5 grains.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're looking for a particular thing, like they call this in the lesson, called malt, or maltodextrin. Right? So there's a whole lot of different things out there that we know that we can't partake of. But the essence is the Torah tells you what to do. It uses these 3 terms right here. Remove anything out of your home that's here. For 7 days, you are to eat unleavened bread and cannot eat leavened bread. Right? But you have to get this out of your house. Makmesed. Right? Seor. Comments, that's what the Torah uses. Makmesed again is that which is leavened. So, let me put that which is leavened. So if we say anything with 5 grains is leavened, so makmesed means what? Anything that has these things that contaminate has to leave your home. Comments is anything that's derived from the 5 grains. I don't care how you look at it. Everything you look, that's what it's going to tell you. If it comes from those 5 grains, it's considered chametz. All these words, though, have the same root, metz. Right? Anything that which is already leavened has to come out. Right? Seor. That's the first thing he uses. When it talks about cleaning your house, the first term he uses is the word seor. And that's actually what we call this. Again, for those who didn't hear, some people call it sourdough. That's the old term. Right? Sourdough. Yeast. Seor. Right? That is yeast or anything that produces or acts as a yeast. So, if this is seor, and it's anything that acts like a yeast, right? What does that make this? When you get down to chametz, the 5 grains, right? And you take that wheat flour and you put water on it and you sit there and you just let it sit. Now it becomes what? Seor. Because now, after a while, it's going to act as an agent that will allow you to use it as a yeast or something that will cause something to rise. That's how they all term together. And then, makmesed, that which is leavened. So now that you've taken this, you're taking that water, you're taking that hummus, that flour, that grain, and you put the flour in it, and now now it becomes this. Makmesed. It's become anything that is leavened now. Right? Now that it's become makmesed, now it can be used to make your breads. See, it all works in the same conjunction with each other. I don't want you to get scared of the terms. Right? They all work in conjunction with each other because what you have to understand is science. And it's not being a scientist, but science is science. Our fathers, when the Torah was written, they just knew, hey, if I leave this here long enough, look what it does to my bread. Nowadays, we have all kinds of things that allow us to do this. You can go to the store, buy yeast in packs. You can buy all different kind of ways to raise your bread. Now we have all the question was that I received, well, it wasn't a question, but somebody said this: if wheat is one of the grains that's considered chametz, how do we use it to make matzah? We can use other flours. Sister Kaya had a thing where they use, what's the name of it? It's cassava flour. Cassava flour or almond flour people use, right? Because they say, well, that's one of the grains. And that's the thing that where a lot of the confusion comes from. You're told that anything that's derived from the 5 grains is chametz. But your matzahs are derived from one of the 5 grains, wheat. So matzah can't be chametz because we eat that. But the fact is that we stay away from these 5 grains that have been pre-processed. Again, raw natural oats that you just harvested can't hurt you. But once it goes through a process, so you don't watch it or put it, or like they say, watch the flour, watch the grain. You don't know what happens to it. In other words, you put it in a container. All of a sudden the temperature changes and you start seeing water, condensation growing in the container. You know that's contaminated now. Even though you didn't do anything, but naturally it became contaminated. Right? So we want to just start off the season, and this is what most people look for, is what can I throw away? What can I keep? What can I eat? What can I eat? Now, Rabbi Yisrael used to say, when in doubt, throw it out, leave it out. Don't even, because that's the safest way. It's only for a week, and believe me, none of us are going to starve. It's only for a week. So let's start off our week. What are we getting rid of? All of our breads, all of our cakes, all of our vinegar products that we know have been contaminated because they're processed. We're getting rid of all of that. We're starting fresh. Vegetables, we don't have no issue with, because yes, people say, oh, but you got people who spray with it. We're not here for chemical sprays. We know that you can eat your vegetables, you can go out to the store and buy your vegetables and things like that. Now, a lot of people stay away from anything in cans, even salmon. We grew up on canned salmon during Passover, because that's what you made, your salmon salad and your sardines. But a lot of people now stay away from anything that's canned. And the reason they stay away from it is because they can't guarantee that during the process, something in one of those 5 grains didn't get inside that food product that you're eating. So a lot of people just buy their fresh salmon, chop it up, put the mayonnaise, whatever with it, and make their salmon salad. So a lot of people stay away from anything that is processed in cans or things of that nature. You have to be very careful with that. Even vegetables, like you say, well, I'm just getting me some peas. What's in that can? That's the processing that you have to be cognizant of, because the contamination can be within the can that is being processed. So you don't want to, so a lot of people stay away from that so far as foods are concerned. And that's what we're dealing with, foods. So most people eat raw, healthy, fresh stuff during the season. Fresh fruits, fresh this. Is anyone here who has, and you won't be able to see my face for a second. Is there anyone who has a question about anything that was said that you can or cannot eat?
So it's recommended to eat salmon fresh and try to stay away from the other meats.
Meats? Now, meats is a different process. You go to the store and you want to buy you a leg of lamb or whatever the case may be, but we're talking about canned. A lot of people, they say it's better to stay away from canned salmon. You want salmon, get fresh salmon. Chop it up, put it in a bowl, does the same stuff. It's the same salmon. It's just you're walking away from the processing factor of the season. You're just staying away from that processed food. Also, wait, you had a question there? Okay. Now let's move from the okay.
Alcohol products.
Alcohol. We're going to do alcohol. Go ahead. You had a question? Uh-huh.
Crust.
Crust for
Pie.
why are you making pie? What kind of pie are you going to make during Passover? How do you make crust?
Flour and oil.
Flour and oil. No water.
You use milk.
Liquid. Liquid at all. Once that liquid sits on that flour, after a certain time, fermentation starts processing. It's contaminated. That's why when you make matzahs, you have to make them within a certain time frame. Otherwise, the contamination process has already begun. And you can, just like you make a matzah.
Correct.
So if you can make your crust within that processing time, then you're fine. Because my daughter makes Passover apple things.
Oh,
Turnovers. Yeah. So as long as you stay within that flour, water, and you're down under 18 minutes. Yeah. Then you're fine. Now we look at grain alcohol. Now let's see. Let's start with the one. I'm not a drinker, but you got your rums, your scotches. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
Or you talking about your rubbing alcohol?
I'm talking about alcohol and perfumes and lotions and mouthwash and
Okay, let's start with this.
tinctures.
Let's start with this. This is again where I tell you it's become consuming and over consuming, and we're getting away from what God has instructed. We are not eating lotion. If you are, see someone. We're not eating lotion. We're not eating perfumes. Right? Yeah. We're not doing that. The point of this is that you are remembering the season. The only way you can remember is to do without those things that you are used to having food-wise. We're not talking about lotions and things like that. Now, there's people, like I said, who will not go, if that makes you feel better, feel better. But I don't go into the whole thing of analyzing deodorant and lotion. I just don't.
My obsessive compulsive.
Because
it needs to be bad. So I'm like,
there's some people who go through I don't.
Especially the Arm & Hammer products that have
The baking soda and sodium bicarbonate in them, Arm & Hammer, which is favorite for that. But again, to each his own. Because the Torah says that it was dealing with food products. We wasn't dealing, and we know that time to change. But if you want to go through the process of going through and checking the oil in your car,
right,
and what chemicals the oil in your car may have, which it doesn't. But I'm just saying as an extreme. as an extreme, because you're driving your car. It's what the Father said, take these things out of your home. And we dealt with food, right? Now, if you notice some things that's in your home, like you said, Arm& Hammer uses sodium bicarbonate with everything they do. It's in there. But other things, if you want to sit and those names that's on that thing that you can't pronounce and look up everything in a perfume bottle, so be it. Right? But regular alcohol, like you put on a cut or something like that, right? I don't run from that either. I'm not drinking it. I'm not eating it. But I still need it to heal. Right? Now, let's talk about liquor. Can we drink liquor?
I see some good lists.
Can we drink liquor during the season?
Grain alcohol.
There we go. Grain, because most alcohols are made of what?
Grain.
Grain. All your scotches and your that's grain alcohol. It's not kosher for Passover. We put away that stuff. But now we're talking about consuming beverage in the alcohol sense. What about wine, yayin?
Some people don't like that because of the fermentation process.
Okay, that's the biggest thing. A lot of people say they do not partake of wine during this week because wine is a fermented product. Though it's a fruit, it's still a fermented product. Well, then the question comes, and I'm going to tell you what questions people say. Isn't it a law that this was part of the offering? Yayin is part of the offering. You had the meal offering, you had the meat offering, and you had the drink offering. The drink offering was wine. Now, as time goes on, family, right? They said, but they also had the ability to offer new wine. New wine. Well, I said, I didn't know at the time. I said, what is new wine? They said that is, because what is wine? Grapes. Right? They said new wine is grapes that have not went through the fermentation process. So it's basically fresh grape juice. That's what they consider new wine. That's what they call it, but it's not wine. Wine is not wine until it goes through a process. Otherwise, you're drinking grape juice. So, again, you have those who say they don't partake of wine because of the fermentation process that it goes through in order to become wine. But again, if you look at comments and you say anything that's derived from the 5 grains, a grape is not a grain. If you look at the word machnesed, it says anything which is leavened. Right? Seor. Right? We looked at the word seor. And seor is what? Yeast or products that act as yeast. So where does wine fall in that? But these are the 3 things that God said you had to put out. So where does wine fall in that? So let's do this. Because wine is a big issue. A lot of people drink wine every day in their life. And they miss it during Passover. So what prevents us from drinking wine? What prevents people from drinking wine? This right here. Isn't it? All right, somebody look on the thing and give me the definition of fermentation, or to ferment. Look up fermentation. Yeah, what is the definition it gets for fermentation?
The chemical breakdown of a substance by bacteria, yeast, or other microorganisms.
The
Typically
chemical
involve-
breakdown
Of a substance
of a substance
by bacteria, yeast,
by bacteria or yeast,
correct, or other organisms typically involving
typically involving
effervescence and the giving off of heat.
or giving off of heat. That's a long one. All right, we're going to start at the top. That's fermentation. The chemical of a substance, the chemical breakdown of a substance by bacteria. Let's start with that. We got the grapes. Mash them up. Got them in a big vat, mashing them up. Got juice now. What do we do?
Let it sit.
Sit. We add anything? Some case, because it says or yeast. Now I want y'all to pay attention to this. Or, not and, or. There's a big difference. Got your back. Mash them up. That's why they say you have wine and then you have wine that's kosher for Passover. This right here defines whether wine can be kosher for Passover. The yeast or any product, like we learned here, that acts as a leaven. Right? That meset. Right? So we know that if you just leave it, let's take the way they used to do it. You take the fruit and you leave it in a dark place. They store it in containers or whatever. It starts to do what? Go through a chemical breakdown.
Bacteria.
And a bacteria, not any added yeast, a natural bacteria, causes that fruit to break down. And by the time you get it, what does it break down to? Alcohol. Forms alcohol. Turns into alcohol. Right? A fruit alcohol. A hooch. Like they call it a hooch. When you drink it, you put the peaches or whatever, and you leave it, and now they get drunk. Because now the alcohol, the fruit is turned to alcohol, and now you drink it. That's the same thing wine does. It turns to alcohol. But the difference between regular wine that you get and Passover wine is made sure that there is none of this. No yeast or any comments that was used for its chemical breakdown. So you say, well, still it's fermented, but what is this? If we're going to say the 5 grains, was the 5 grains used? So it's not comments. It's a natural, right, process, and they make sure that none of it was used, so that's why it's considered kosher for Passover. Now let's just think about that for a minute. That grape sits there in its juices. Just sits, you ain't done nothing. And it begins to ferment. Now we talked about this with water and flour. What happens with water and flour when flour sits there? Break down. That flour, when it's added, that dough begins to break down into a cake. And we know that it becomes later on what we call sourdough. It acts like a yeast, right? It acts as a yeast. But now we're dealing with something that's different. It's not grain, it's a fruit, right? So the fruit sits there too, right? But if I take that fruit and a cup of it and throw it in my flour and water next year, will it rise? No. You understand? If I take the dough and water and hold it, I use it as a yeast to make my bread. That's what the Torah said. We didn't have time to use it in our bread. But if I take the wine and take a little cup of it while it's processing and sit it off to the side, can I use that later on to make my bread? No, I can't. Right? Because that flour and that water, it acts in its own way. That fruit acts in a totally different manner than the grain. Also, you have to remember this right here. Heat plays a very big part in when you're dealing with food products. Heat plays a very big part in dealing with food, right? Chemical processing things in plants use heat to cause certain reactions, right? You have to use heat to cause, you say you leave it out, leave it in the sun, don't do this, don't put it in the cold, right? Or nothing will happen. The heat causes certain reactions. So when you're talking about this, and like I said, if you don't drink wine, fine. You're not going to be punished for not having it. You're not going to be punished for not drinking wine. But we have to be careful when we're talking about fermentation and what it does to certain things, because fermentation doesn't do the same thing to everything that you put in front of you. Doesn't do the same thing to everything that you do. Right? So you have to be able to ask yourself what it is that it is. If you don't drink wine, so be it. Right? And trust me, I've heard all the stories over the years. Right? Because you can Google. All right, who's the Googler? Kai, you're going to be the Googler. Kai, Google why can we drink wine during Passover? And let's see what it says, what Google tells you. Why does Google say we can drink wine during Passover?
Okay, Google said, wine is drunk during Passover to symbolize freedom, royalty, and joy, marking the transition from slavery to liberation.
Okay, let me stop you. I'm sorry. I need a different definition.
Okay.
Look up, what is the difference between kosher for Passover wine and non-kosher for Passover? What's the difference between regular kosher wine and kosher for Passover wine? Let's see what the difference is. What do they say is the difference between kosher wine and kosher for Passover wine?
Go.
Hold on. Okay. I'm with you.
Google says, all kosher for Passover wine is kosher, but not all kosher wine is suitable for Passover. Kosher for Passover wine must be free from chametz.
Kosher for Passover wine must be free from
chametz,
which is what? According to what we looked up, it's anything is derived from the 5 grains, okay?
Yes. And its derivative.
Things that's derived from it, made from it.
And it must have specific rabbinical supervision verifying its kosher for Passover status. Regular kosher wine may contain ingredients that are not permissible for Passover.
So basically, the process, not what you put in it. Wine is wine. It's the process when you make the wine. To make it kosher for Passover, they're making sure that whatever vats processing is put in it is free and clear of all these chemicals. If you've ever watched or ever had the privilege of going to a matzah factory, when they produce matzahs, they bring vats of flour that are sealed, that haven't been touched, and they pass it from one. You're the flour man, you washed it, it's sealed. When it comes into this level right here, the door gets closed. When they bring it into this door, for him to start practicing, there's no open spaces, no ventilation. Nothing to contaminate what he's doing. When he gets finished his process, it goes to the next one. So when it goes in that oven, they watch that process so there's no contaminants. No doors are open, nobody can walk through, except the people that's working in there. So the same thing with wine. It's the fact that wine is wine. The thing is not going to change, but it's watched so it's not contaminated. And none of these things have taken place. No yeast product or anything that would form and act as a yeast has gotten into it. And it has not been given the heat process that most things have been given. Because heat causes bacteria and things of that nature. So it's all about process. Trust me, family, these questions are going to be there forever because everybody says the rules. Well, who made the rules? Well, the Torah made the rule. Use this word, and that word. And we see this word is that the same. And we have already shown you that this word and this word and this word all link up together. They're all one family. The bottom line is the Torah says that we did not have time to let our bread rise. So we had to leave in haste. So we ate bread that was unleavened. And so that you remember throughout your generations, you are to eat unleavened bread and remove leaven out your homes.
Because in reality, the ones that were made were with leaven, but it didn't get to rise.
Right. In other words, this is where this term comes from. You ever hear the term sourdough? You need to look it up. Sourdough. Right? This word sourdough that people use, sourdough bread, that's what they used to call that which they put in bread. Sourdough. It's sourdough. It was a piece of dough that they sat off and it became fermented and soured, right? Or as they call soured, but it turned into a yeast acting product. So when our mothers in the ancient days went to take that flour and water, they would put that in there. Just like you put your pack of yeast in your bread and you let it sit there and rise, that's the same thing they did, no difference. But without it, you got unleavened bread. So now the Torah says in order for you to remember that, you got to eat that, not only eat that bread, but you got to remove that stuff out of your homes. You can't enjoy it. You can't partake of it because if you do, you'll forget about this. So now you got to eat matzah. No nice fat thick rolls, right? Because the whole thing is about remembrance. And I think we get sidetracked because we get so caught up in this. We spend all week chasing down foods and looking for stuff and making sure by the time you get everything right, you're like, I'm good. Passover, them 4 days went through Passover already. Passover's almost over by the time you straighten yourself out. But it's not, it's the fault of all the things that have been given. I've been told that we're at the point now, and if you, look, again, it's not to, but we take it, I just feel, we take it to levels that it doesn't need to go to. People say you gotta watch the paper plates that you use because the paper plates have a coating on it that could possibly have cornstarch on it. And then if it has cornstarch on it, you can't use the paper plate. Man, I'm not eating the plate. I'm not considering that. I have other better things to do. My thing is that I want to make sure that my house doesn't have these products in it, and I don't partake of them for those days. Might we miss something? Sure. Right? Might miss something. Oh, is it ever going to be 100%? Maybe, maybe not. But again, if you're in doubt of wine, don't drink it. You're not going to suffer. Anything that you're in doubt of that you say, hey, I'm not sure if I can or if I should, just don't do it. Leave it at the store.
2 questions.
One
thing is, so what about those things? Passover's here, and the first day of Passover, you finish the feast, you look in the closet, you find something that should have been thrown out.
All you can do is ask for forgiveness. It doesn't mean you can get to go and talk, well, I messed up, I can eat bread now. You still have to go and just ask for forgiveness because you might miss something. You might look and say, I should have read that. I didn't even read that. Now when you read it, you thought it was good, but after closer observation, you realize, or you say, you know what? I had something stored away that I hid from myself. Now I remember it, but you just keep moving. You throw it away, ask the Creator for forgiveness, not people of perfection. What's the second question?
At Trinae Watkins 2804 said,
okay.
What can you do about if you have pets? A lot of foods have 5 grains. A lot of pet foods have 5 grains. Can you store them outside?
This has become the process because Israelites do have pets. Now, what can you feed your pets during the season? Do you feed them what you eat? Because some pets don't eat table food. Some pets are strictly brought up on pet food, right? So a lot of people take their, all right, let's go back. Define out of your homes. And they say out of your gates. That's where you live. But let's say you got a storage house. You don't live in that storage house. So a lot of people take their stuff and they put it away. It's away from you. You're not eating it. You're not partaking of it. And we found it in our community is legal to put it away in your storage home. But you either have 2 things to do. You can make pet food that you can keep in your house, whether it's using meat, vegetables, rice, things like that you can keep in your potatoes, some type of thing. And if you choose or you feel your pet is can't live with that, then you have to keep that stored away from you and keep that outside and not bring in the house. Right? Like you say, you have to feed your dog outside. And then when he finishes, you bring back, so some people have their pets live inside. You have to feed them outside and then bring them back inside. Sister Rebecca, any question? None? You good? Mm-hmm. All right. No more questions online? No? Okay. Any questions? Nobody in the house?
You got a better picture now.
Oh, okay. She brought up a good thing. She said cheese. All right. Now we're going to talk about cheese and everything else that goes with cheese. Cheese. What else goes with cheese? No, I'm just saying.
Dairy products.
Dairy, cheese, yogurt, ice cream. All right. What is cheese? Milk. That's its main ingredient, isn't it? And then, I'm not a cheese maker, but I can tell you this from what I heard. Cheese is milk that they use enzymes to make yogurt, cheese, different milky products such as that. Is milk okay?
Okay, yes.
Milk is fine. All right. Now, I want you to look at do the same thing. What is the difference between regular cheese and kosher for Passover cheese? It's going to tell you about enzymes.
Kosher for Passover.
Okay, everybody listen. Kosher.
Kosher for Passover cheese requires strict certification ensuring no chametz touches it using specialized Passover certified cultures and rennet.
Cultures. All right, we're going to look these things up. And what else?
Rennet. Rennet. R-E-N-N-E-T. And it goes on to say, unlike regular cheese, kosher for Passover cheese demands dedicated production lines or at a minimum rigorous machine-specific koshering, usually with a rabbi on site.
Okay, so we wasn't too far off, right? We got milk, right? And anything that's going to be made kosher for Passover, we know it can't involve those 5 grains. Has to be free. Well, now we have to ask ourselves, what cultures are cheese made of? What is the cultures?
Just like mozzarella would be Italian.
Now we ain't talking about that culture. What cultures are cheese made of?
Switzerland.
What cultures are cultures?
American.
It's American culture. Oh, no, you didn't.
You know, the French make a whole bunch.
Okay,
Get it?
now let's look at this. Cheese production uses microbial starter cultures, bacteria. Starter cultures are bacteria, right? To convert lactose into lactic acid. Now you know lactose is in milk. When they say lactose free, right? Aiding fermentation and flavor development. Key bacterial cultures include lactose, lactis for cheddar, Thermophilus for mozzarella. So there's different ones for different cheeses.
They're microbial
Bacteria, which means they come from bacteria, right? That's the difference. Because if you use any of the 5 grains as a culture, as an enzyme, to make cheese, you make it up. So what is an enzyme? What enzymes do we use for cheese? Here we go. Rennet, R-E-N-N-E-T, a complex enzyme system. Listen to what it says. It's a complex enzyme system, not just an enzyme, containing chymosin and pepsin, which coagulates milk, separating it into curds and whey. Rennet can be sourced from the most, and I read this the other day, the most popular rennet that is used is source comes from the calf stomach. They take it from the stomach of the calf. Right. Vegetable sources or microorganisms produce chymosin. Other enzymes include lipase for flavor development and lactase. So it's a whole big process that has to be used. But again, as long as it's not from the 5 grains, cheese will be labeled as kosher. Now, what about lunch meat? I call it lunch meat. Y'all might call it something else.
Cold cuts and
Cold
jelly
cuts.
slices.
Jelly slices. What about those?
I heard that that's a no-go.
Why?
Because it's been processed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You take bologna, salami, pastrami, right? And what's one that we use? Turkey. So if I take turkey and cook a turkey and take the breast of the turkey and put it on a slicer and slice it into sandwich meat, that's fine. Right? But again, with stuff that you buy at the store in a package, we have to be careful that when we buy a pack of, let's say, beef bologna, people say, I'll give me a pack of beef bologna. How is that beef bologna processed? It's not clear, and you're not sure. So the best thing to do is, when in doubt, do without it. Unless you can know your source, which you get it from.
So it's all right for hot dogs?
Hot dogs. Good question. What is a hot dog made of?
Fillers.
She said that with it. Do that. Fillers. Fillers. That's like that commercial that the Hebrew National had a thing where they said, fillers. Right? So, hot dogs. Processed. Right?
Yes.
Go into the store, and I doubt if you're going to find anything that's kosher for Passover. Hot dogs. We usually leave that stuff away. We usually don't deal with hot dogs because we know it goes through a big process of fillers, and so hot dogs and stuff we just leave. Okay. A lot of people leave off to the side because we don't know. We know it's a process, but we just leave those things off to the side. Like I said, the safest way, because of all the chemicals that go into processing and all the steps, a lot of Israelites in our families feel that the safest way is the non-processed foods. You just leave the processed foods alone for me. Get you vegetables, rice, fine. You want to make some beans and rice, some vegetables. Now you can go and get you a chicken and cook you a chicken and have you a meal. But we just try to stay away from the processed stuff that we don't know where the factory was made, what chemical processes went through it, what kind of enzyme, what kind of cultures have gotten into the food during that week. All right? We're never going to get every answer because we don't create this stuff. Right. And people say, well, we can't even go by the kosher for Passover because everybody's trying to make a buck. That's true. But let me ask you this. When you first came into this way of life, not everybody, right? I'm just saying, when you first found out this way of life and you said, I got to change my way of eating, what was the safest thing you found? You bought kosher food because you felt that kosher, you knew that was better than just going into your local Kroger and buying this. You know,
due diligence.
like meat. Let's use meat for an example. When you first came into this way, the Torah told you, and you learned that the Torah said that you can't eat the swine. That's a given. But now it says the beef. And you say, well, the Torah says that the cow is a clean, so as long as it says 100% beef, I'm good. But the Torah doesn't just leave it as 100% beef. It says things that died of itself, and things that are torn by beasts. Right? So how do you know that that piece of meat that you consumed, the man he found it dead in amongst the other cows, and he ain't leaving that money on the ground. You don't know it died. He bought you a whole truckload full of cow, you don't know. So what do? Right? So our thing was, we would buy only kosher market products from a kosher market. And why? We can go with this thing of they're cheating you and they're robbing you, but we felt that was safer than going the other direction. So it's just the same way now. If you have to have them, let's look at macaroni. How many people like spaghetti, macaroni? Can you just eat macaroni products? During Passover, that's what we talk about. During Passover, can you just eat regular? Can you just go and give me a box of, ranzoni? No. During the course of the process, because it's made of what? Wheat, usually flour that's processed. Right? So we don't know. So we stay away. But if you go to the Jewish market, they have what? Kosher for Passover spaghetti, kosher for Passover noodles. So if you feel you have to have those, you can't, your system just won't allow it. Then the best bet is to at least, if you're going to do it, go to kosher for Passover. If you have to.
I used to use rice pastas.
Or some other type of, but for people who don't, because you can find those. But if you just feel like I'm snatching up the thing, hey, you can go and get you some kosher for Passover. That's what we came up on. Everything was kosher for Passover. But at least you feel better about what you do. And if that doesn't make you feel better, when in doubt, just leave it out. Just don't even bother with it. Because again, you'll run yourself crazy if you start thinking about every little thing that you have in your home. Oh, bug spray. Can I have this bug spray? Is this bug spray kosher for Passover? Why are we asking ourselves, is bug spray kosher for Passover? I'm not definitely eating bug spray, but I'm going to kill them bugs. Right? So we have to keep things into a normal perspective. It's when we start going out of that perspective of normality is when the confusion starts building up. What kind of oil do you use in your car? What additives are in your oil? That's in your car, that's in your driveway. Gas, all of these different things. What is it that you use? I saw your paper that you have. Now, can I share this with them? Because I think, all right, this is a paper that Sister Kaya has that has been, this is what they have, a Hebrew family tradition, right? 2026. And it says, the search for leaven. Now, you'll see that in all the books. There's a time frame where you search for leaven. And before that night comes in, you're supposed to have gotten rid of all your leaven. There's prayers. There's a whole thing. And it's a door. There's prayers that you say that in the event that you didn't get it out, you're asking God for forgiveness prior to that you get the leaven. It says, because the Torah says, howbeit, On the first day you shall put leaven away out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Exodus 12:15. In preparation for the incoming holy season, all Hebrew homes should be cleaned thoroughly, spring cleaning, and products concerning any of the following should be removed before sundown on Yom Revi'i, Wednesday, April 1st. Yeast, giving. Loaf bread, rolls, bagels, muffins, cakes, cookies, etc. That should be a giving. Baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Now, I'm going to tell you something now. She said baking soda, which is used in toothpaste, laundry detergent. I want you to pick up your phone, Sister Kind. I want you to ask AI. I call it AI now. Ask AI, can baking soda be used during Passover? I'm just going to show you how we think compared to, Malt, she has on here maltodextrin, usually derived from wheat, barley, or corn, beer, potato chips, soft drinks, peanut butter.
Yes, baking soda.
Say that again, because you just said on your paper that baking soda can't be used.
And I was like always a complex.
Now, what does it say about baking soda? No, I'm just saying. I'm not.
It says, yes, baking soda, pure sodium bicarbonate, is generally considered permissible for Passover and does not require special kosher for Passover certification. The question here is the difference between baking powder and baking soda. That's
Now I want you to look up, is baking powder is baking powder, is it okay to use baking powder during Passover?
okay.
Look up that one.
Well, baking powder is generally considered kosher for Passover.
Say that again.
Baking powder is generally considered kosher for Passover, but it requires specific kosher for Passover certification to ensure it is free from chametz.
There you go.
Wow. And
Now,
often kidney yolk,
which is corn, beans, rice. Right. Now, but she had on her paper, and I'm not saying anything to disturb what she had on her paper, but you know why they say it's okay? Because it's a chemical-based product. You understand? They say it doesn't come from this.
for the grains.
Right. Sodium bicarbonate is a chemical. But listen to this. Let's go back. Let's see why we don't deal with baking soda or baking powder. Because what's this? This is the one that's there. What is this?
Seor.
What is seor? What do we say seor was?
Yeast or a product that works like yeast.
Right.
Does baking soda or baking powder work like yeast?
Yes.
Yes, it does. And that's why we don't use it, because we consider it seor. Right? We consider it seor. That's why I tell you these things run neck and neck. They work together. Even though it's a chemical, not from the grain, but the word seor is understood. We understand it to mean that which acts like, or has the same properties, or does the same thing that yeast would do.
Baking powder and baking soda, or just baking powder?
Baking powder.
Okay,
Baking soda
is cool.
doesn't do it. It doesn't
Okay,
act
good.
as.
Okay, good.
Maltodextrin, we talked about that. Distilled grain white vinegar. Vinegar from grains. We already talked about that. So you got your stuff like your barbecue sauces and things such as that, your grain alcohols and stuff is prohibited. And see, that's why it's good to see, because bakers. I'm not a baker, but anybody who bakes, they know what you can use. Bakers know what you can use in order to bake products. But again, when you look at the list and you say, if you just happen to go online and you're not sure and you say, you see a bunch of lists of kosher things or passive things, and you look, you say, we can have that. We was never allowed to have that. Because again, baking soda, baking powder are considered chemical agents, not grain agents. But we know that Seor says anything that acts and does the same thing as. It can act as a yeast. It can do the same thing as a yeast. So anything that's derived from that, when you use it, is now falls in the same category, right? My message says, doesn't matter where it came from or how it derived, anything that is leavened, I don't care how it got leavened, whether through a chemical or a grain, if it's leavened, it's makmesed. And the Torah says that has to come out of your house. So whether it's a chemically based, grain based, naturally, it has to come out your house. Right? So we learned that these different things that we have all run hand in hand. Right? So it doesn't have Seor. Seor doesn't have to be just specifically that which is sour. Right? But we know it's anything that has leaven. That's why the Torah uses it first. It doesn't say comments first. The first thing it says is Seor. Right? But it's just become, I don't know if it's the name. It sounded like sour. Seor, sour. Right? But now we have a different interpretation of what it is. So are there any more questions? Because we're not going to stay here all day. This wasn't a day thing. It was just a little time for us to get together and help people, you know. So I pray that you have it. And just keep these 3 words in mind. And again, the week, you have a week. All right, next week, we're into this. So if you go out to the store and you're not sure, I'm not sure, just put it back on the shelf. Leave it. As long as you got your staples that's going to get you through matzah. Somebody asked me, can we eat egg matzahs? You can have egg matzahs. Now, in a lot of, especially in the Orthodox community, the only people that can eat egg matzahs is children and the elderly. Right? Because they're soft. Right? But there's nothing wrong with eggs. Right? But they say that's not a real matzah. Real matzah is just the flour in the water. That's not a real matzah. But you can have egg matzahs.
They have, lots of bars don't play stuff on the shelf. Keep it from getting here. And they have boxes on there that says not kosher for Passover.
Yeah.
But some people still get it though.
Yeah, because they think it's a matzah. You can have egg matzahs. That's how I like mine. They have matzahs that cost a whole lot of money. They cost more matzahs. They're round. They come 1 or 2 in a box for $50. Because those matzahs are washed from the like this. And they guarantee that they have been washed. The flour comes from a specific origin, and it's made, washed, and shipped. You ain't got to worry about it. The matzahs we buy are like anything else, like bread. It comes through machines, and it's pre-made.
I'm just trying to remember.
The whole purpose is that you're remembering. You can't eat your cakes, you can't eat your cookies, you can't eat that. You're just eating this matzah, and you'll be like, man, this matzah. Can't forget about Passover and being an Hebrew. You can't forget about being a Hebrew. And you can't forget about God if you have to eat these things. And that's the whole purpose. And like I said, My whole thing is if you're not sure, don't get frustrated. Don't say I'm gonna quit being an Israelite. Just leave it out. For 1 week, just leave it out. It's only a week. It's just like you said, I want to lose some weight and I'm gonna stop eating sugars. I'm gonna do this on a diet. And trust me, if you truly eat matzahs every day, it does something to your body. It does a cleaning process. It actually does a natural cleaning process to your body. Yes, that all that roughage and stuff, and it gets you. So yeah, so it has other added. So we're going to bring this to a close here and realize that, like I said, these words, and I'm not, again, there's other people, other thoughts, and it's not to step on people's toes or take away the teachings of anyone else. It's not my position. But, you know, like I said, if you have questions, you can always call and ask. And if you're not sure, just leave it in the store. My own word. If you're not sure, just leave it in the store. Right? Just leave it. You're not gonna perish without it.
I have a disclaimer.
A disclaimer.
When I created this form in 1999, there was no Google or AI to look it up. Okay.
Right. So
Yahoo was around.
Well, I didn't. But I will change. When you learn better, you do better. When you know
better.
more, you do.
you just take what this again. The Torah says. That's why in Exodus 12, from verses 1 through 13, it talks about the original Passover. The sacrificing of the lamb and the putting the blood of the. From verses 14 on, it says, and this is how you shall remember. Right. It says, this is what you do. It says, for 7 days, eat unleavened bread, take it out of your homes. This was so that we can, it's all part of remembering. And like I said, we don't want to just do what we want to do, but when you go and you say, hey, I'm eating my matzah, egg matzah, if you don't believe in eating egg matzah, don't eat egg matzah. If you have a thing against wine, please don't drink wine on my account. Right? Stop. If you don't drink wine, don't drink wine. Kosher for Passover, whatever. If you don't feel it's necessary, if you don't feel it's good, leave it alone. Right? Just let it be as it is. Whatever it is that you're used to doing, continue to do. And I pray you've learned something and share information. The whole thing is to share information. You know other Israelites out there, talk to them, see what they do, and compare notes. That's what it's all about. It's a learning process for all of us. There's a whole lot of things from a rabbinical stance that basically are there, but it takes you to a whole different scope of how do you deal with different issues, right? So, so far as the chemical processes and different things, it's there.
You know, stack the